Alright, come on, Elwin. We can do this. Come on. Alright, Legion of Glory team. Hein. Alright, Hein. We can do this. Survive. Man, what am I gonna do? My Legion of Glory team is just not working out. Wait a second. I've got an idea. Welcome to Project Ages. My name is Ages, and today we are going to be taking down the Ice Dragon Asante at level 60. Hopefully you enjoy this guide. So, with this, let's start by looking at the units. So my units that I'm going to be bringing is Elwin. Now Elwin's going to be bringing the troop's masked maids. They're an excellent troop that definitely boost his abilities to do more damage. Defense Break, Eternal Light, and Soul Sword will be his skill set. Here we have Hein. Hein's going to be bringing Wizards, another great unit for Hein. And then we got Fireball, Teleport, and Lightning. Next, we're bringing Landius, who's going to be a very key player later in the dragon fight. I'm going to be bringing his Royal Cavalry for that defense reduction, or damage reduction, and Templar Knights as a additive if you want to use them. I think their color scheme is great. Resplendent Legend, Tranquility, and Indomitable will be his skills that he's bringing. Next, we have Rachel, who's going to be bringing the Sorceress, a great magic damage dealer unit troop. And then she's going to be bringing Lightning Strike, Holy Ward, and Dark Reaper, excellent for fighting the Ice Dragon. And then we have Liana with the Shrine Maidens and her typical kit of Heal Again and Prayer, all very valuable skills in this fight. Now this fight is very difficult for Legion of Glory players, which is what I typically play as. So bringing Landius and Rachel is actually something I stumbled upon and had a great idea when fighting this dragon. First off, here we have the enemy units. The Sorceress enemy here have Dispel and as well an AoE. The Cuttlefish, they have a Move Again and as well a Pull-In skill. So we need to avoid that type of skill. But the cool thing is if you stay out of range in the initial area, you don't have to worry about them starting the match by moving towards you. So you're actually able to move up within the danger, next to the danger zone, and begin setting up your units, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm going to be buffing units after I move everybody around. We get Elwin doing his faction buff so that everybody's tip-top ready to go. So the first wave we're going to focus on here is the Southern Wave. So my goal here initially is to take out the Cuttlefish. We need to take out that squid monster and make sure he does not breathe another ounce of liquid air, one of the two. So we move in Hein. Hein's going to be doing Lightning. It doesn't really matter on this. There's no type effectiveness on any of these creatures, so pick either one you want. Next we move in Rachel. Rachel is going to be using Lightning as well. We want to save her other skills because it's got some healing properties to them. Next, we're going to be moving Landius. Now, Landius I have is only 3 stars. Actually, we're moving Elwin. Doesn't matter which one goes first. Landius, though, is 3 stars, so I need him to be next to a unit to get his talent to proc off. So we go for Tranquility. In this portion, it's not going to be that useful. I forgot that the mages only use AoE type moves. They don't typically resort to single target damage. Now I again Elwin here to make sure that I can take out one of these units, because 2 of these AoEs would really mess up my team and potentially take out a unit. So I go ahead and use Soul Sword and take out one of the mages. So now they're down to 1. So I should only get hit by 1 AoE, which it goes off there. Now the key thing is to make sure that any of your passive abilities, you make sure that you're not going to jeopardize yourself. So with Landius, he has Indomitable. We got to make sure that he doesn't try to go in for a kill and get killed himself, expecting he'd come back with that revive, because that is no longer there.
Give me a command.
So then we have Elwin go in and take on the mage there. Next, we're moving Liana around. I'm not sure if I wanted to move her up, because if I couldn't kill that squid, it was going to cause no end of despair for me. So instead, I move her down south and use prayer to get everybody healed up, as well as giving them sort of a regen healing ability. Next, we move in Hein. Hein goes ahead and takes out that mage.
Where are you looking at?
So that is the southern team down. Really not too bad, just because dealing with those mages, they use AoE, so it's not a lot of direct damage. You're not going to lose a straight unit, but you could lose your entire team if you're not careful. So here I'm looking at the skills, just making sure that I need to have Landius next to a unit, so I'm moving Rachel first. Which in this case is good, because this squid monster, this cuttlefish, can't do range attacks. So I hit him with the Dark Reaper to do as much damage as possible, because I want to make sure I take out this cuttlefish.
Just a bit more.
We move in Landius. Landius goes in for the attack. And now he's able to guard Rachel, which in the end it's not a big deal because the AoE goes off. Alright, now we're into round 4. So from here, now I'm trying to decide how I want to move my units up. I move Liana to get the heal on Landius and Rachel, because they're going to be the ones dealing with this mage. We don't want the mage to move back any further, because then that mage is going to be moving into the danger zone of Asante, and we don't want to deal with that. So I move in Rachel first, go with Holy Ward. Now if everybody's healed and at full health, that Holy Ward will actually heal herself, which is a key little strat that I try to play around with. Next, I move in Landius, and I'm going for that attack. Do not get the kill on it. So now I'm thinking here, what can I do, what can I do? Oh wait, possibly. And I move Hein. Looking at the footage now, it might have been better if I had moved Elwyn, and then had Elwyn take out the mage. But in the end, it all works out, so it shouldn't be a big problem. Elwyn goes up and does the faction buff to give Hein his abilities to keep fighting in this fight. So I was betting on the dispel to happen, and that's good that it did. So the unit did not move into Asante's range. Well, technically it was into Asante's range, but I'm out of it. So now I'm looking at the skills of the Frost Dragon, because we're going to be engaging here pretty soon. Breath of Ice happens every other turn, along with Ice Age. Now I'm looking at the turn counters. It's important to note what turn you're at, because that will dictate what move is going to be coming. So here for this fight, I'm going to be engaging the dragon on this turn, because this is when it does the single target move. So I shouldn't have to worry about the AoE coming after me. So here I'm trying to just decide, okay, how do I want to deal with this? Where do I want to move my units? So I ultimately decide to pick a unit and move them. No. I use Landius and I go ahead for the attack. Makes the most sense. Take out that unit and make sure I do enough damage. That takes out the last mage. Now we can focus on the Ice Dragon here. With the Ice Dragon by himself, my main units that I'm going to be using is Rachel and Hein. The key thing is that Hein cannot heal himself. He can do a lot of damage, Rachel not as much, but Rachel gets to supplement the fact that she can heal also. Now I'm a little worried because Landius here doesn't have the faction buff up, because he had to go in for another attack. So right now I'm getting everybody just kind of healed up, figuring out what I can do with my units.
I won't slow anyone down.
There is a couple times in this fight that I actually had to use the time clock, which saved me so much, but it was more of an error in movement and position and learning the fight a little bit along the way too. This was a very difficult fight. So I moved in Hein and did not attack. I'm ensuring that he is going to be attacked solo with that Breath of Ice attack. So it did not kill him, but it took out all his troops. So there's Hein all by himself. So now we're going to be moving in, and we're going to try to avoid the AoE. So it's every other turn. So Breath of Ice on odd number turns, and then Ice Age on the even number turns. So as long as you keep that in order, you'll know where you can move and separate units, and when you can bunch them together to heal up and whatnot. So here I move up Rachel. Now Rachel is going to potentially be healing Hein. I'm still deciding on like what I want to do because I need to get Landius in a specific position. This is where this fight actually comes kind of interesting. Because Asante is such a ranged unit, Landius has a really unique skill with Tranquility, and that he is able to reduce range damage. So I'm going to be playing with that in this fight. So I use Holy Ward to attack Asante to give a little bit of health, but I didn't like that move. Something was wrong about it. So I went back, used the time clock to adjust my movement.
Don't let your guard down.
And now that I'm looking at the footage, it is because I didn't use the faction buff. Silly me. So now that I faction buff, Rachel can now move in, use Holy Ward, and actually do proper damage to the boss.
Let me try, okay?
So she does that, heals Hein. Everything is in good position now. So I move forward Liana, and this is where I'm having to use a lot of my time clocks to go back a few turns because I made a few mistakes. Here's a mistake that I made that I'm going to realize soon with Liana moving in and having again Rachel. That was not a good move to do. So what I'm going to try to do is try to bait the AoE move and see if I can recover without having to use the time clock.
Let me try, okay?
But ultimately, this does not work out, and Asante goes in for the kill. So then I move in Hein over here, still baiting. I move Elwyn, hopefully out of the way, but it doesn't matter. He uses Ice Age, does a significant amount of damage, and takes out Liana. So ultimately, that was a poor choice of movement. So I didn't need to, again, Rachel. I should have just held off on that. So we go back to the same turn that we started with. So now here I'm deciding what should I do. I move Hein back so we can get some healing going.
The battle is not over yet. Don't let your guard down.
I get the faction buff off again so that Rachel can actually do some damage. I believe Rachel goes in for combat, correct? She should be using Holy Ward. Again, a lot of this fight I was still trying to decide what movements I wanted to make because it was a rather close fight. Level 60 is a little bit difficult for me. So I go in, I already healed Hein, we go with Holy Ward, do a decent chunk of damage, not as much as Hein would do. And then we should end turn with Elwyn. Elwyn's just going to be here faction buffing, he's not going to provide anything. But Landius is going to provide some interesting stuff. So Rachel takes a full-on AoE. And now we have to deal with how we're going to heal Rachel and as well get Hein involved. We still have prayer with Liana, so that's more than likely what we're going to be doing after this turn.
I can't escape, I can't escape, I can't escape!
So Hein moves in, does his damage, drops the magic defense on him. I don't want to use Rachel just yet because I want to make sure that she gets enough health. She gets enough health now after I again Hein. Hein then will move through teleport, I believe so. I believe I do. Again, this fight is it's a little long of a fight. I have Rachel go in, use Dark Reaper. Do another nice chunk, and that's going to heal her up real good. Heals her. Now, Hein can use another move, but it's going to leave him stranded with no faction buff, and I don't believe Elwyn has the faction buff ready. So what I do here is I use Tranquility, and this is the key stat that I wanted, or the key skill that I wanted to use in this fight. With Tranquility, you lose, the enemy loses 30% of their critical buff, but it also reduces ranged attacks. And really, Asante is using nothing but ranged attacks, so I thought this is a fantastic idea. So I move Liana out of the way, just one spot over. And since Elwyn doesn't have the faction buff, so Hein's sitting out here naked, but watch how much damage he actually takes. Not bad for not having the faction buff. He should have taken more. So now I can faction buff up, and now we can actually play this interesting game where Landius is actually trying to keep up his faction buff and tranquility, and then having my damage dealers use that as a defense buff. Another character that you can bring that would really help out in that case would be Luna. Luna providing a magical defense increase, a magic defense increase to your units within a certain amount of spaces, and that'll allow her to actually do the same thing that Landius is doing, probably in a better way because she doesn't have to use a skill for it. So here we're just using normal moves. I'm starting my move turn with Hein, so that when Rachel attacks, she can actually use a healing skill to give health back to Hein, and that way it kind of keeps Hein replenished with health and not have to worry about it too much.
Good luck.
So here we're just kind of going through the motions now, but since he used an AoE move, I can now move Hein in close and attack. And then from here it's going to be an interesting cat and mouse game where I move in Liana, heal with Liana, and guard with Landius as he keeps up the tranquility. Hein then attacks first. Rachel will be attacking afterwards to give a healing bonus to everybody. So once I got into this turn, it was when I found a groove. Go in. I'm gonna heal Rachel to make sure that she can get her move off. I don't want her dying in this. And then Rachel will be using Thunder because her turns
Just a bit more.
on her skill cooldowns are off.
Let's try our best.
Elwyn just remains the buffer. And then she uses her lightning ability to take out a chunk of Asante's health. Prayer is another fantastic skill in this because it allows you to have that regen ability too. I know Tiara's would actually be a lot more fantastic because she's able to give that passive healing off, but I do not have Tiara's, and this works out pretty well for me.
Yes.
Okay, so next up is going to be the AoE move, so we need to be very careful on that so that we don't lose units. Landius, we need to make sure he starts off with his faction buff.
Enough chit-chat. Take this.
And the cool thing about Tranquility is that its command range increases to 3. So every time he uses it for 2 turns, my 2 damage DPS units are able to keep up their magical defense. So I use again on Landius so that he can use Tranquility. I move Hein back into his position, use Teleport to get Liana out of there.
I'm ready.
And then I go in for the attack with Dark Reaper. Rachel will heal off that, so it's a perfect move for this fight.
Come on,
And then I go for Tranquility to keep up that buff for... It's a command buff for the 2 DPS units. Ice Age goes off. Very little damage.
Good luck.
And now we start the turn over again, and this is where Hein can actually move in close. We go for the heal because it's going to be a single target damage. And then at the same time, if the Asante decides to go for Liana, it's not that big of a deal because we can have Landius guard her at least for 1 turn.
Please give me a command.
So she moves in, she's going to heal. I believe she's going to heal Rachel. That would make the most sense.
Thinking.
Because Rachel can then provide a healing
I won't slow anyone down.
buff to Hein. She goes for Holy Ward. Heals 2 of the most... heals the lowest HP unit, which heals herself because she took the most damage. And then also gives a passive healing to Hein. So Asante goes for close range. goes after Hein. Hein takes a lot of damage on that fight, but ultimately gets the kill on Asante. And that was my guide on how to deal with Asante. It was a really interesting idea that I had. I wanted to use Landius because I thought Tranquility had a really cool command gimmick to it, and since I had built him up so much as I'm running a dual Legion of Glory and Yeles faction, I decided that he would be an excellent idea to run for this strategy. So now we're looking at the equipment for Hein, and we'll go through the rest of the characters as well, so you can get an idea on how you can run through this fight, and hopefully be able to take down the Ice Dragon at level 60 yourself. It's not too bad. It's actually probably one of the easier level 60 fights to deal with, just because those AoE mages at the very beginning, they don't do a lot of damage, so as long as you can kill most of them, you should be relatively okay. And you take out the squid monster as fast as possible, and you should be sitting in a good position to deal with the Ice Dragon coming up. So we're just remaining looking at the last units, and this is Liana. Thank you guys, everybody, so much for watching. This has been Project Ages. Have a wonderful night. See you later.